How many people are aware of the algorithm changes that have happened online in general? Okay, quite a few of you. And how many of you have actually noticed the impact it's having on your brands or your businesses? Okay, about half the same number of people. So I can tailor this conversation accordingly. So basically the objective of my part of the presentation is to highlight the different changes that are happening across the platforms according to what the brands themselves have said. So you may have gone online like I have and done lots of searches, and then Google will pop up, or Bing, or what's the other search engine? Yahoo, I should know that one. Will pop up all the different kind of opinions, conjecture, guesswork around what those changes are. So I'm going to cover the ones that have specifically been defined by the platform owners themselves, and then some of the more speculative notions that you should bear in mind, and also make recommendations as to what you can do within your own industries in terms of being able to overcome this. But also bear in mind, algorithms change all the time. They're changing without us even knowing that they're happening. So once they've actually told us that these algorithms have changed, it's because this is a major change, and they've decided that they're going to stick with it. So the aim of improving or making these massive algorithm changes, so you may have heard that Facebook, Snapchat's more of a UI change, but there's also an algorithm change. Instagram, YouTube, and Google itself have all announced algorithm changes. For us as digital marketers, that's quite a lot of channels in one go, but the way that those changes have been made is going to create a huge impact in the way we do marketing going forward. But the reason why these companies have made those changes is to improve the user experience online. So we've all heard about the reports that have recently come out, not only from investors within Facebook, but also psychologists and also mental health professionals around the impact of social media and digital technical tools on particularly young people, the impact of the national state and their intervention with a few general elections in different countries, and how they've been able to infiltrate different countries and electorates to sway elections potentially. And also just a lot of users are actually reconsidering how they use social media because it's not as in a positive or happy environment for them. Unfortunately, particularly with Facebook, it looks like the biggest losers are the brands, particularly in the way that they've decided to make such drastic changes. I actually think Instagram is perhaps more drastic than Facebook, but we'll go into that a bit further on. Does this mean we're back to 2006, 2007, 2008? Those of us who are young enough and perhaps as veteran enough to remember what it was like getting into this space in the first place and having to go into that sandbox and playing around with lots of different things and trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. How can we not black hat, there's no black hat here, but how can we understand what the algorithm is, and how can we make these tools benefit what we really want and try and get some ROI or ROE, return on engagement. The key point is that brands will be rewarded for being truly social. The key thing about this algorithm change is that brands who behave like human beings are the ones that will be truly rewarded. So again, we're going back to retro social media 1.0. And what does this mean for your marketing and content strategies? So if we go straight into Facebook, and there's about 2 or 3 slides of this. So these ones are specifically taken from Facebook's announcement that they made on the 11th of January this year. Excuse me. So users will see more content from friends and family. Apparently users have been complaining that they're seeing too much content from brands, too many advertisements, too many suggested content, too many ads, too much from all of you. And they just want to hear from their friends and from their family. I actually think that sometimes people don't actually know what they want. I don't know about you, but for the last 6 weeks, I think this is a bad idea, personally. But I noticed 2 or 3 days after the announcement, 1 in every 6 posts was an advert. Actually, let me rephrase that. I scrolled for an hour and I saw one piece of brand content, about 3 days after that. Whereas you'd usually see an advert or a piece of public content, one sort of like the 5th piece of content would be a piece of public content. So that was a huge change, but that they're playing with the algorithm still, because there's a bullet point that I've got on here, which I think is on the 3rd point, which I actually have to retell you because the change was made yesterday. So, so users will see less content from news, media and brand pages. I think that, so from my observation, and maybe you've seen the same thing too, I saw less content in the first couple of weeks. I'm starting to see more content from brands. But how I am seeing it is that friends who have liked the same page that I like, I'm starting to see their comments from that post. So even if I don't receive content from the brand organically or via a sponsored post, if a friend that I've connected with has actually engaged with that content, not liked it, but actually written a comment on the post, I will see that. So I said here, content from groups will be prioritized in the newsfeed because that's what they said. And then yesterday, I wish I could show it to you, but I saw a notification, I don't know if anybody else saw this yesterday, that basically Facebook sent an alert allowing all of us to reprioritize how we want to see posts from groups. So whereas once upon a time you could see all of them, which I think was the default for many groups that you joined a few years back, it's now highlighted posts. So highlighted posts are basically posts that people in the group who you've become friends with, whatever comment they've made, you will get a notification of their comments. So basically it goes back to bullet point number 1. As brand owners or guardians of your brands on social media, the only way that your users and your followers and their networks will see your comments and your content is once they've made a comment on it, not if they've liked it, not if they've loved it, not if they've hearted it, not if they've frowny faced at it, and not if they've given an angry face on it. So that's where it's going. And that leads to the point number 4. Active engagement posts will be prioritized over passive engagement posts. So when we had the major algorithm change around 2014, 2016, when Facebook announced that they will optimize the newsfeed so that people will see content that they thought you would most like to see, they're now optimizing the posts or optimizing content based on the engagement within that post. So if the content or the post has a lot of comments on it, that will be the content that will be shared most. So if you post a piece of content and basically you have no comments but quite a few social actions, that post probably won't get a lot of exposure at all. So it means that we all now have to think as I'm going to call all of us guardians of the brands. I'm in a superhero kind of mode at the moment in terms of the way that I'm thinking. So as guardians of the brands, we need to think about how we can encourage our followers and our audiences to actually receive our posts. However, bear in mind, post baiting you can't do, not anymore. So if you're thinking of saying something like, vote for this in the comments, don't do it. If you're thinking of saying, like this if you're an Aries or love this if you're a Leo to find true love, you probably won't have a piece of content like that. But if you did, that's called react baiting. Don't do that either. And similarly to share baiting, tag baiting and comment baiting, i.e. write something in the comments. Examples of this is in the actual, these images were taken directly from Facebook's blog post. If you go to the newsroom section, January 11th, those examples sit there. So, those are the things you can't do. Here is a couple of things you can do. Live video. I know video is pretty scary for most brands because once upon a time, an agency would rock up to a meeting with you and tell you it's £10,000 for a video, or it's probably even less now. But from Facebook's point of view, live videos will always be optimized. And that's been the case for about nearly 2 years now. So that is no surprise. As Facebook is changing its direction, personally, and I know I'm on camera, but personally, Facebook's changing its direction from a social network to more of a direct messenger kind of like company. These things would be more important, and basically we have to kind of preempt their direction in order to build our social and marketing strategies, and also our business strategies. Because as organisations, we should be also thinking about how we become better social businesses as well. And believe it or not, Facebook expects user time to decrease on the platform. So they have their own agenda too. And their agenda is actually to build upon the Messenger platform, which I'm sure most of you have guessed already. So what does this also mean? So some of this is the speculative part that I think you can make deductions from the previous parts, but none of this is actually in the press release that Facebook published. But has organic zero arrived? So those of us who have known that we're going to get to this point anyway, has it now arrived? Do we now have to completely pay to play? I don't know if anyone has got above 10% organic reach on any posts at the moment. Be interested. Do you mind kind of like raising your hand? Yeah. So I'll have a chat with you later. So then, does this also mean the cost of ad placement is going to increase? Because technically, based on what Facebook has said, if users no longer want to see as much content from your organizations or from you as guardians of the brands, that means there'll be less inventory. That means added costs will increase. Should storytelling be primarily used in live video format? Are you telling stories or are you broadcasting news? Do you need to develop a commenting strategy? I mean, I don't know how many of you remember loads of different ideas around commenting strategies from 2008 and 2009 that died around 2010, 2011, but I think we're going back to those days again. It feels like a flashback for me. I don't know about any of you, but it feels like we're kind of going back into the good old days, I guess. And then I think some people have noticed this anyway, but if you're using any automated bots, if you're using third-party platforms to post content, it might be worthwhile reconsidering that, because some people have observed that their content may be being demoted in the newsfeed. So unfortunately, platforms like Hootsuite, Adobe Social, all those platforms which organizations use, Radiant 6, actually maybe not Radiant 6, that are using those platforms to actually publish content, you may consider actually publishing natively and seeing if there's a change in your organic reach. And anyone who's using engagement pods, I would also suggest don't do that either, because everyday users don't use those. Engagement pods, active pods, there are other different group names for them, but basically I would recommend avoiding those, or encouraging any influencers you're working with to actually help boost your content. I would encourage you to stop them from using those too. So what does this mean for you? So do you have to redefine the purpose of Facebook in your marketing plan, whether it's your social marketing, but in your Facebook, let me start again. Do you have to redefine the purpose of Facebook in your marketing plan? Yes, you do. A couple of years ago, some of us were saying that Facebook is a content delivery service. I think they caught on to that and thought, no, we're not going down that road. We're going to change direction. So what is, is Facebook at the top end of your funnel? Is it your brand awareness channel? Is it going to be your channel that you engage with one-to-one with your customers, i.e. in groups or in Messenger? Does it mean you have to implement tighter integration marketing strategies? So once upon a time when we used to kind of drive traffic from social media through to a website, through to an email, and then we didn't necessarily have to do that because Facebook and some channels allowed us to do that on the platform itself. Should we continue relying on social media to actually deliver our marketing goals for us? I would say we should be very careful of our reliance on social media, and we should actually look at true, solid integration marketing strategies. We should be getting really creative with content strategy. We have to post content that's not only engaging, but also from a kind of like an animated and thumb-stoppable. I think people who were here at the last meeting would remember me talking about thumb-stoppable content. But also, what kind of promotions can you do? What work can you do with influencers? Because of this, I can say this now, there's lots of opinions at the moment saying that because of the algorithm changes, this year's dubbed to be the year of the influencer. So do think quite strongly about how you can integrate and work with your influencers to help you reach audiences and new audiences. There's also a feature on Facebook that allows your followers to actually select to see all your content first. So there's a quick YouTube video, and there's lots of ways of doing that, but basically you go to join and the options are there. However, a user can only select 30 pages to do that with. So you have to be one of those 30 pages that they choose to select the see first. And consider building your community using a linked Facebook group as well. But then your Facebook group has to have a purpose. It has to have a drive. It has to bring people closer. So let's say, for example, if you are a hotel group, if I was to set up a group, I would look at doing something that's really niche in terms of perhaps the kind of stay, or it's a working group in terms of how you can improve, or it's based on a particular kind of travel that people are interested in, so that you can get people actually commenting, engaging in the content, making friends with each other, so that way they can see the content that's being shared. Increase volume of live video and video in your calendar. And this is one of the things that I have been talking about for years, and it's so, so important. The brand needs to show up every single day, at least 2 or 3 times a day in the comments, talking with your audiences, talking with your followers, talking with your dissenters, perhaps, if it adds value to the community. And I know, because I get this question sometimes, but I don't have any comments in my posts. And part of the reason why there are no comments is because the brands don't show up. If a follower doesn't see any reason to make a comment, then they're probably not going to make a comment for you. So show up daily to acknowledge. If somebody's posted a compliment, even just put a like. You don't necessarily have to write a comment, but even acknowledge the post. If, yes, we all have to deal with trolls. It's just one of those factors of life. Even the royal family are having to deal with it now. It's one of those factors of life. My response to, in terms of how do you respond and who do you respond to, if you can add value. So even if it's somebody who has a really horrible criticism about your organisation or their experience, if you can add value, respond to it. And even refer followers to your customer service, refer them to a partner organisation, refer them to an influencer post to look at if there's something that could be aligned. Find ways of being really helpful to your followers. Like I said, Facebook Messenger is going to be the hottest thing this year. I've seen so many different ways of how brands are using Facebook Messenger to automate their relationships and their conversations with their audiences. Mostly I've seen them used to direct people to different bits of content rather than having people not waste time. I take that back. Instead of having people spend lots of time trying to search for content, convenience is the one thing that people will pay for. If your bot directs people to answer a question that they need answered quickly and you can redirect them to a page on your website or a post on your social media page, people will sign up to your Facebook Messenger app. And knowing that you can actually embed Facebook Messenger into your website, it's even easier. So you can almost use it like your email marketing tool as well. So for those of you who may be using like MailChimp or another enterprise level of email marketing service, Facebook Messenger will start to replace those types of tools. And Facebook ads retargeting tactics, this goes without saying now, but be creative with them. There's nothing more annoying than receiving a Facebook targeting ad when you've actually purchased something and you receive an ad for the same thing that you've purchased. But look at ways that you can actually enhance and increase the experience. So even if there isn't a way, because of the way your systems are set up, that you can identify your buyers from your non-buyers, create content that kind of like nurtures them or encourages them to look even more deeper into the experience. So what could this look like in the travel space? So Facebook hasn't gone against any of this, so I'm going to recommend these to you too. Incentivize your followers with check-ins. So you can use coupons, drink coupons, recognition. Do not underestimate how valuable the money can't buy experience of recognition is. A thank you from a hotel brand, food brand, so that somebody has bragging rights is still so important in social media. But incentivize check-ins because those are still valuable. Promote events with sneak peeks. So if you're a venue, say, or if you're an organization that has events, whether they're just small events or even large events, provide a sneak peek, a trailer, a behind the scenes type of insight, and allow people into your organization. Who are your staff? What are your values? What do you stand for? What's the inspiration behind the designs of your rooms? What's the inspiration behind the location? Are you going through renovation? Who's the architect? Who's the designer? Who are the chefs? Where do you source your food from? That type of content. Again, as I said, follower recognition is so important. Sharing guest content on your social pages. Remember, friends of friends will see that content, which will lead them back to your page. So that's an organic tip for you. Add Facebook Messenger as a real-time add Facebook Messenger as a real-time chat function to your company website. So state that you're open from whichever, whatever your opening hours are. Train your customer service team in terms of how to use Facebook Messenger and understanding that the Facebook audience is going to be very different from the people who call up by phone or the people who would use websites to contact your customer service team. And then Facebook stories. This is not widely used on Facebook for whatever reason. I think it just feels a little bit foreign at the moment, although sits at the top of a user's real estate and it's got 100% reach. At the moment, it has 100% reach. And the fact that you can if you have an Instagram page, you can post your story from Instagram directly to Facebook. It's worthwhile doing. I believe it's one click. I haven't actually tried it myself. So those are some tips that you can actually use for Facebook. Whew, that was quite a lot. That's just one platform. Shall we move on to Instagram? Okay, so in all honesty, it pretty much applies, a lot of it applies the same again. So in principle, anything that's automated, anything that looks like humans didn't do it or it's trying to game the system, avoid. Engagement pods may be viewed as spam avoid those completely. As far as I know, there still aren't any third-party apps that will allow you to post content. So like Buffer, you can't post content to Instagram. Hootsuite, you still can't post. And also hashtags. I remember learning about 18 months ago, the more hashtags you post on your, the more hashtags you can attach to your caption, the increased possibility of your posts getting, one, onto the explore page, and two, being discovered by a whole bunch of other people. Now they're saying don't do that. That looks really spammy. No more than 5 hashtags, please. And do really good hashtag research. The tools that are around to do that, you can use the Instagram tool. It's really good in terms of research, in terms of identifying your audience. Iconosquare is still a valuable tool to use. And also, I didn't put this on here, but I know that some brands and some influencers as well had a core staple of hashtags that they would use and then add extra ones according to the post. Now you'd have to use ideally 5 unique hashtags per post, ideally. Again, I'm just going to stipulate again, some of this is speculative, but there's a lot of content online about this. So the fact that there are lots of posts about or content about this, or an opinion about these ones, I'm quite confident there's strong validity for them. This next bullet point, I haven't quite figured out what the solution is for it, because I think it makes sense, and I don't know how businesses or anybody will be able to handle this. So most of you may have already heard with Instagram, when you publish a post, 10% of your followers see that post. Depending on your engagement of that post, within 60 minutes, then the next 90% will see your post. So there's sort of like a gating of who will see your post based on your engagement. Therefore, my bullet point suggests that when you get engagement in the comments, and as we all know, Instagram is has the highest engagement of all social platforms, your brands, as guardians, you need to be in there acknowledging, commenting, responding within 60 minutes to kind of like let that gate open. Now, on a 24-hour basis, I don't know how you do that unless you're a huge company, like some of the clients we've worked with, where we have 24-hour cover on social media. But it's something to think about. So I think this will be more of a test because it's not humanly possible, and it would lead to automation and lots of bots being created for it. But just bear that in mind. They will find a way to kind of like refine that. But that's quite important. I've done this apparently, and because I'm not very good at proofreading, but basically sometimes I go in and edit a post afterwards, and then it sits in the post. But that is also a black hat strategy for Instagram, that you might go in and say update, and what it's supposed to do is actually put that post up again in the newsfeed. It's supposed to boost that post. Any editing or deleting of a post will be demoted in the newsfeed from an optimization point of view. So once you've posted a post, leave it. However it performs, it is what it is. Just post a new post. And then recently, we've been able to follow hashtags as well as following people. Being able to follow relevant hashtags has a likelihood of increasing your visibility. And I guess that's kind of like the networking aspect of social media. So let's say you follow the hashtag Sandy Beaches, and perhaps you post content with a hashtag Sandy Beaches, and maybe you connect with somebody who uses the hashtag Sandy Beaches. That whole network effect actually helps to optimize your content as well. It might be more of a slow burn, but it's designed to help do that. Snapchat. How many companies here or guardians of the brands use Snapchat for their brands? Okay, cool. So I don't know how much of an impact this has created, because the whole idea was that with Snapchat, for those of you that don't know, the idea is to have the friends and the brand's content, like Facebook, in the same newsfeed. So you see all the content in the same place. Snapchat have recently separated them out. So when you click on Snapchat, you see your camera screen, then you swipe to the right, and then you see your friends' content, or their posts, or their stories, and basically that's all you have to do. You can live in that space. So again, like Facebook, only seeing the content from your friends and family. If you swipe to the left from the center screen, that's where you'll actually see the branded content, which you don't have to swipe to at all if you choose not to. And also, you can personalize that space as well. So brands have to work even harder now, and this is where I believe the integrated marketing aspect becomes more important, because for each post that you create on Snapchat, it has its own unique URL. So you can actually share that on other social platforms and drive people to the Snapchat ad. And there's a page that's created so people can download the app anyway. And if they have the app on their phone, the post actually opens up. But in the brand's feed, because of the way that followers can actually personalize the content, for me would be an element of concern. So content would appear, depends on how you submit it to Snapchat. Followers can unsubscribe directly from your content. They can unsubscribe from content like yours. So it depends on the bucket that Snapchat puts your content in. So I do believe for all of those who are using Snapchat now, or those who are thinking of using Snapchat in the future, there is a valid opportunity there depending on your audience base. But I truly believe that using it as a siloed platform isn't the best way to go, and therefore an integrated marketing strategy. So you'd always have to refer from either Facebook or Instagram or somewhere else like that to tell those stories. So that's Snapchat. There were lots of content on YouTube, but none of it I could actually trust and kind of like stand solid and say, here is guardian of the brands, that this is actually true. So I've left those off for now. So we do know about demonetization of some of the smaller pages. YouTube are also moving more towards this kind of philosophy, whereas only the best content will be monetized. Therefore, only the best publishers will then, or especially new publishers, will be on the platform, and they're cleaning up the content as well. So content that's offensive, not great for advertisers, not great for users, not great for followers. There's a massive cleanup of social media right now. So I believe that I can imagine all of them sitting around a table, sort of like in the dark mist of an area, sort of like, what should we do with digital and social media? And basically this is what they've come up with. So hopefully for us as users, it creates a better environment for all of us. Hopefully for those of us as brand managers or social media managers, although it creates a change, in the long term, what I believe it means is that we can actually market to the people that we need to be marketing to, what's allowing us to be a little bit more creative than perhaps we have been. So, tips for success. Create content that sparks conversations in the comments. I know that the tag baiting, comment baiting, voting baiting has been quite successful at that. But just bearing in mind that the best content genuine on social media are the ones that tell stories. Think about ways of how you can tell stories about your brands or even your customers and their experiences. Be actively engaged in the comments. Behave like a friend or a family user. In terms of social media policies, brand voices, tone of voice, they should be more akin to a human being as opposed to a brand. So the social media tone of voice, I would strongly recommend, includes the brand's values and tone of voice, but is of the voice of a human. So whoever is, I don't want to give names, but whoever is in your team as a social media community manager, they should have the freedom to actually be able to perform and behave on social media as themselves, but wearing the cloak and the values of your organization. Test and learn. I cannot emphasize this enough. A/B testing all the way, and any other testing that you can think of. And especially probably for the next 9 months, because these algorithms are still trying to settle in. I saw a change yesterday that's changed part of the presentation already. There's probably another change happening right now while we're sitting in this room. There'll be another change tomorrow. So as algorithms roll out globally, some people will see some changes. So for example, I didn't see the Snapchat change until I think Tuesday, but it actually was activated back in November or December. And for those of you who have global companies or work for global companies, some of those changes might not be in some of the markets that you're working in. So just bear that in mind as well. Community management approach should be beyond moderation, beyond customer service. Again, I can't emphasize enough, being that personality, that human personality of the brand in the comments is going to be really important for all brands going forward. Diversify integrated marketing strategies to drive social traffic to your own media. Social media is important, and I think it's incredibly valuable, but I think some of us have become over-reliant on it and have higher expectations for it, for what it will do for us than what they actually want to do for us. So if we have reached organic zero or zero organic, depending on how you want to phrase it, then what does that mean? That means we have to take more charge of our data, take more charge of our communications, take more charge of our strategies, and bring our followers and customers back into our own brand and customer ecosystems, and nurture our relationships there. Use tools that are actually there and test and see how they work. Stories, Messenger, engage with followers on a one-to-one basis. So you may want to create a VIP program, and Messenger is perfect for that kind of outreach. And then I believe my last point is this. Generation Z, the oldest Generation Z, I think is 17. The youngest Generation Y or Millennial is 18. Now, I don't know if anyone's done any research on Generation Z, but they're less likely to use social media than we think. They're most likely going to use messenger apps. So what does that mean in terms of marketing, especially if you're marketing family holidays with a slight tilt towards the youth audience? If you're looking at marketing to gap year students who are about to take their A-levels in the next year, 2-3 years, they're less likely going to be on Facebook or Twitter, probably not going to be on Instagram. They probably will be on Snapchat and Messenger, therefore harder to reach because they need to give up their contact details or need to come to you and say, I want to receive information from you. So, as the younger ones have been frightened into not using social media for the past few years because of the more nefarious things that happen on social media to many children, and they tend to move into more privacy-oriented social platforms, and the millennials still use the more open social platforms, you may have to adopt and create a kind of like a dual strategy to reach those new audiences. So that's just something to bear in mind. Thank you very much.